On this episode of The Nursing Home Operator, I sit down with Jayk Brooks, who took over my first building after I left. We talk about why no two nursing homes are the same, what it really means to fake it till you make it as a new administrator, and the unforgettable story of his very first resident council turning into a full-blown dogpile on the new administrator. If you're an administrator or aspiring to be one, I think you're going to enjoy this conversation. Let's jump in with a couple of fun questions. How's it going at your new building? I'm just genuinely curious at this point because I've heard good things, but at the same time I've heard that it kind of turned into a bit of a beast. So
yeah, it's a complete animal.
Yeah.
And it's just comparison, right? So like before, my background was just in healthcare in general, but ignorance on my part, I didn't know anything about the skilled world. And so then I do, my AIT, which was very similar to kind of what my building was down south. But that's what I was used to. So even my AIT, and then I get to the building in Colorado Springs, and you know better than anyone what that demographic is like. And so that's what my whole experience has been. And then I come here. It's like a complete 180, the demographic, your staff, everything. And I just wasn't ready for it. The makeup, you're going from a straight Medicaid building to 30 skilled beds and 90 long-term care. And I just smacked me across the face, dude. Crazy.
Wait,
humbling,
so you're doing
humbling.
30 skilled beds?
Yeah, 30 skilled. That's what we run.
That's a lot of turnover. So do you have a full-time marketer then?
Yes. Well, kind of.
Okay.
Kind of, sort of. So we're a bit of an island where we're at. So we have one hospital that they pretty much feed us everything because it's kind of the only hospital where I'm at.
Yeah.
And then we have another one a little bit up north that gives us a fair amount. So honestly, it's been a little bit easy on the marketing side of things.
Okay.
But I do have pretty much 1 3/4 FTEs for my admissions because there's no way I could do it. No way.
Yeah. That was one of the big things for me as well. So my building right now is all skilled. So 48 beds, all skilled, all short-term rehab. And it's weird not being the guy in charge of marketing because with our first building, it was not the case. You were HR, you were marketing, you were everything in between. You were a little bit of social services. You were the abuse coordinator. I'm still the abuse coordinator, but it was everything. So yeah, the skilled world is wild. What's rocked your world the most about jumping into the short-term rehab skilled world?
I don't know if it's necessarily a Medicaid only building compared to a skilled building as much as it is the cultural differences of Southern Colorado. They are not the same. They are two completely different states. And so I walk into it, and not even saying from not getting into politics. They're just way different. The culture is way different. So Colorado Springs, being Southern Colorado, very military, people are passing. Everybody's kind of a transplant to the area.
Yeah.
And that was just big to kind of come in and adjust. But there is another aspect to it. A Medicaid only problems where someone's trying to stab me over a pack of cigarettes or like illicit substances and keeping those out of your building and calling the police and stuff compared to just I guess those people are far more independent as well because you're dealing with psych, you're dealing with behaviors in that sense, whereas it's acute in that sense, but then you come to a skilled building and it's acute in a different sense where the concerns are, improving your call out response time and just what family expectations are whereas people down south, they really aren't involved when that is your demographic.
Yeah. It's funny you say that. I feel like with skilled patients, the hardest part is managing family expectations because a lot of times they're very involved. They feel guilty about putting them in a home or a nursing home, and they want to micromanage their care. And so all of a sudden they are up in your business and want to tell you how to run your building, how to do your job, and it can be incredibly frustrating. And the worst part about it is I totally understand their situation, right? It's tough to have a family member in a nursing home, but at the same time, it can just be a real problem. So how are you navigating that situation over there?
Well, I mean, pros and cons. So, our old building that we were at, you have one person in social services, and then we take on a lot as well, or just not even taking on the brunt, just sharing the workload. But here I have in bigger building more resources. So I actually have 3 people in social services. And so I have been fortunate in that aspect of social services department. Social services director is stellar. She does an incredible job of owning those. And then I think one thing that I've had to adapt to is focusing on IDT department heads sharing the workload. So if we are getting a
Yeah.
dietary concern, I'm not dealing with that. The dietary manager is going to deal with that. If it is a clinical concern, I'll help with those, but I also have 3 nurse managers that they are going to deal with that. So it's just
Yeah.
maybe me adapting to how I do things and maybe being less involved in trying to distribute the workload better.
Yeah. How has that been then as you're adjusting to that? What's been the biggest hurdle in division of labor, I'm going to call it? How have you I don't know, excelled in delegating?
The struggle has been not wanting to have my hands in everything because
Yeah.
I can't do it because something like I'm going to drop the ball somewhere else. So it's been maturing as a professional and just learning how to properly do it, how to get the results from people without, kind of playing politics, like asking them to
Yeah.
do something without chasing them off and just making them mad. So maturing as a professional to figure out how to properly delegate.
Yeah.
And it hasn't been easy. I've
Like
learned
yeah, the trust
the hard way. Yeah.
required the trust required in your employees is such a hard thing. Like everybody always talks about like I think what Stephen Covey has a book Trust and Inspire, and it's all about like trusting people to like do their job and inspiring them to do their job. And that's great. And I really respect people who are really good at that, but sometimes I just want to control everything. Right? And so I totally hear you. It's been a huge kind of wake up thing for me as well. Just as I've been trying to not micromanage everybody and give them the freedom to kind of make things their own and do the job according to how they see fit. So that's a tough one. That's a really tough one. Kind of backing up a little bit. What because we're talking about growing pains. What has been the biggest growing pain for you? Not only just like switching from a Medicaid to a skilled facility, but we're both new administrators. What has been kind of the big growing pain for you?
It's more of the same, learning how to balance it all because there's so much to it. So even with a background in healthcare before I even came over to the SNF side, long-term care side was far more focused on acute, like hospital settings, orthopedics. That's what I did before. And it's just so different. But then when you operate a building, you become the CEO and you have to take ownership for everything. So as you and I both know, business office manager is out. Well, who's going to fill that role? You have to know how to
Yeah,
maybe not do it well, but do pieces of it. Same thing with HR. My current growing pains is that my scheduler walked off no notice, but she was
no,
doing scheduling
dang
in
it.
HR. So now DON's doing scheduling and I'm doing HR. And so it's trying to learn how to do all of these different functions well enough to keep going till you can hire someone else. But even Medicaid only, what were we like 83 beds max capacity, but you leave and I remember sitting in my office getting like everybody knocking on the door. This is like a day after you left. It's like 6 o'clock and I called my wife and I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. No idea what I'm doing. Like I would just ask Devin and he's gone and now I'm the guy. I'm like, I don't know what to do.
Dude, it's actually hilarious you bring that up because that was going to be one of my questions because I had a very similar moment where like the questions were just piling up from my staff and I was just like I have no idea where I'm going to find these answers at. It wasn't even that I didn't know what the answers were, it was that I didn't know how to find the answers. And so I feel like that's a growing pain that every new administrator goes through. And so that's hilarious that you brought that up because I had a similar thing, but you figured it out, right? What tell the people what did you do in that situation? How did you figure it out?
It's it as stupid and cliche as it's gonna sound, it was just fake it till you make it. Like, I don't know, but I'm gonna act like I do, and we're gonna get there. And our building got to a point, and I've always given you credit along the way. Just saying, Devin walked so I could run. He kind of built a solid foundation, and we picked it up and just kept going with a great thing that he had built. And so I was very fortunate for that because I always laugh. I was like, he did all this, did all the crappy stuff. Like he had to go through the worst parts, and then I just had to pick it up and keep going. So, and I was also fortunate too to have a great DON that I worked really well with. Social services was awesome. Really all the department heads just knocked it out of the park, knew what their role was, and they owned it. So I was fortunate in that sense, but I faked it and got to a point where I think they respected me. And then finally you see the same scenarios enough that you're like, all right, this worked for me last time. We can try this again. And I think I narrowed it down to some right answers.
Dude, one of the things that I've always admired about that transition specifically, like the transition from you to me, from me to you, was that you kept the team together. When I got into that building, everybody left. Like, I did not keep the team together. Everybody left. Some people walked out, no notice. Other people we had to let go because of quality control, I will say. But how did you keep the people together? You mentioned earning their respect. What were some of the things you did? Because I have never kept a team together. I will admit it on the podcast. Everybody leaves as soon as I join a building. Luckily, this building that I'm at right now, it's a brand new building, so I got to hire everybody. But
Yeah.
what did you do to earn their respect and keep the team together?
Well, before you're spinning this as positive, saying it's a good thing. Before I say that, I went through that inherited situation from you and then did it again a few months later and did not keep the team together. So
did not keep the team together.
The
Still
team
500. You're batting 500 on keeping the team together. So
Hall of Fame numbers.
Hall of Fame numbers.
I think it was easy because everybody respected the DON. And so really it was just getting the trust and respect of the director of nursing. And then once I got that, I think people could see that and they off of that. And so it was kind of like, you know what? If the director of nursing is giving this guy a shot, then I will too. And so it was a lot of that. But week one, again, after you left, DON was in my office bawling, I can't do this. I'm out. And it was just like a very matter of fact conversation. And I've since talked to her about this, but it was just a very matter of fact conversation. I said, this isn't fair. I said, you have not given me a chance. So you have to give me more than a couple of days. So you have to give me a shot before you're gonna throw in the towel. Give me a shot. Give me a month. That's all I need. And that's all it took. So a month later, and we figured out a lot of things. I just said, what is it that's burning you out? What is pushing you over the edge, and let me fix it. But again, I can't fix it in a week. You gotta give me more time than that. And I also kind of gave her some power. I said, behind closed doors, I said, if there is absolutely an admission that you are like, no, I said, I will respect that because I trust you and we won't bring this person in, but that's behind closed doors. In public, you're not the one making that decision. I have to be the decision maker. I have to be the one that everybody knows I get final say, but if you tell me behind closed doors that you don't want to bring this person in, I will respect that and we will not bring the person in. So that was, I guess, just a few things, but it worked out. She's one of my best friends, very, very, very close friend of mine, and we developed a good relationship the time we had.
That's awesome. Is she still at the building?
She's not, no. So
She's not,
that's
really?
changed now.
Man,
Not
well, we'll
there.
have to catch up after this because I'm interested to know what happened. So,
Yeah.
but getting back to what you were saying, so you mentioned that you kept the team together one time. You did not keep the team together the second time. Talk to me about that situation, because sometimes the real lesson comes when things fall apart. So talk to me about that situation.
It's a lot of like a lot of factors contribute to this, but we operate differently. I think every admin walks into a building and you operate differently. You can still get success, you can find results at the end of the day, but you can take two paths to get there. And so I was again very fortunate to follow up after you, because I think we operated and act similarly. And so it wasn't like everybody was kind of used to you, and it wasn't a big change for anybody because we were very similar, to the point that people were like, thought I was you, because we even kind of look similar too. So it was easy in that sense. However, coming into this one, this building is just unique, that it's gone through enough changes, but it was ran very differently than I wanted to run it. And so immediate just conflict with people right out the gate. And not to say that they did anything wrong, that anybody did anything wrong. It was just, this is how I'm going to operate. And they didn't want to work under that, which is fine, to each their own. And then personal reasons, I had high expectations that I was going to ask people to do more, and they didn't want to do that. And that's also fine as well. But getting the right people on board, again, just piggyback off of that first experience, those were the right people. Fortunately, I inherited those people from you, but this one, I just had to find the right people that did want to work things the way that I was going to work them. Still getting there.
Still getting there. It's a work in progress. So, hey,
Under construction.
Yeah, you talked about contention, a little bit of contention with people. And you mentioned one of the things was sometimes you set expectations high and people don't want to try and achieve those expectations. What were some of the other ways that you experienced contention on the team? Because a lot of times, the contention that I feel with my team, director of nursing, management team, whoever it may be, it will have to do with expectations. But there's other times where it has nothing to do with expectations. We're both on the same page about expectations. It's about the route that we want to get there. And I'm just curious to know, like, it sounds like there was an abundance of contention at that beginning part. What were some of the other ways that expectations didn't align?
Kind of a funny story, if I could derail a little bit, tell a funny story if that's all right.
Hit me with it. Yeah.
So I'm used to resident council being, state mandated expectation from a state perspective. And you can attest, we go from a resident council where maybe 5 people attend to me week one of acquisition. I say, hey, I want to do a resident council. So I get with activities, or not a resident council, a meet and greet. And I'm used to, again, maybe 5 people showing up. I schedule this meet and greet for my first week, and there are 50 people, family members, residents, everything. This is absolutely packed. And for the next hour and a half, nobody knows who I am. Not said a word, nothing. I am absolutely raked through the coals and interrogated, sight unseen. Never had a conversation with any of these individuals. Like pitchforks were ready to go. That I am going to come in and I am absolutely going to ruin this for everyone. Haven't talked to anybody. This is my first interaction. And so I was completely blindsided, completely caught off guard, again, comparing first experience to second experience. But anyway, getting back to it is the thing that nobody wants to talk about. And I told everybody in this room, or in that room, I said, I'm going to be very transparent with you. In order to take care of people, in order to provide great care, we have to be financially viable. Because if we are not financially viable and I cannot fund payroll, if I cannot do these things, I do not have people to provide care. I have to do the two things simultaneously. And that means that I may have to cut back from 5 cheesecake options to 2 cheesecake options.
And that was the moment they sharpened the pitchforks and went at you, I'm sure.
No. The pitchforks were already sharpened before I ever went into the room. And this is when they did chase me out. But going back to that expectation. So residents have this expectation, staff members have this expectation, and now I have to cut the cheesecake from 5 to 2 options. And so a lot of these people understood when I said that, when I would tell them, again, in order to provide great care, I have to have us being financially viable. And some people understood it. Some people are like, that makes all the sense in the world. We cannot have excess cost and spend all over the place and still expect to survive.
Dude, just as you're talking about like being the fall guy, right? That is something nobody prepared me for when it comes to being an administrator. You are the face of the company. So if the company is not doing well, that's on you. They're coming for your head. They don't care that you just got there. They don't care that you've been there for 2 weeks. They only care that you are the head of the company and they're going to rake you over the coals. As you're like talking about sitting in front of resident council and having all the families involved, I'm thinking about just all the experiences I've had of like being the front man. If you're an AIT specifically, they do not prepare you that you are the face of the company. Like you have to do PR, you have to do all those things. But end of the day, if the building's got issues, you're gonna be the one who answers for them. So that's funny. Funny story, Jayk. Going back to just like leadership, I think in general, because I think we kind of stumbled upon it. What's a leadership decision that has kept you up at night?
I think bringing on the wrong people. So I had a lot of people that maybe left at the beginning because we had to make those tough decisions. But then since then, I've hired people that have left quickly for one reason or another. And so these are like growing pains. And I think about, why did I? And this is completely on me. And I've wasted 2 weeks, or I've wasted this much time. Like I had a director of nursing come in for 8 days.
They just couldn't bear working with you. The ninth day was what just broke them.
They said, if I have to deal with that mustache for one more day, I'm out.
Dude, my director of nursing walked down on me 3 weeks into me showing up. So it was, she hadn't been there that long though. So
yeah. But like I take those personally because it's like, I hired this person. I interviewed this person. How did I not have the foresight to know that this wasn't going to work out? Like I'm paying my own stupid tax.
Yeah. That's the worst, especially the director of nursing. Like you have such high hopes when you hire a director of nursing that they're going to take that clinical burden off of you. And if they walk out, you just feel like your world is collapsing. That is no fun. Dude, how has your leadership style changed then over the last year? Because when I saw you, right, I was used to running the building, and so like it was like a chaotic 5-day transfer, I think, like trying to just dump all this knowledge. And so I didn't really get to see like your current leadership style, but it sounds like you've kind of had to go through the ringer a little bit in just making difficult decisions and that sort of thing. How has that changed your leadership style? And I guess, how did your leadership style start out, and where is it now?
I have this philosophy that I preach that no 2 buildings are the same. They have a different identity.
Yeah.
And you can still own most of your leadership qualities, but you also have to adapt, because I cannot lead the same way I did at our first building compared to second building. So I had to be
Yeah.
adaptable. I had to be malleable. I had to change. And I think some of that change probably a lot more intense because that's what the building required. I had to be a lot more forceful with building number two than I did
Yeah.
building number one. Building number one didn't require it. Building number two did. Had to be far more of the hammer that I really didn't have to be in the first place. But that's what I had to do to make sure the building survived.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I inherited a mess financially that
Yeah.
required a lot of tough decisions again to make sure that we were financially viable in order to take care of people. So,
When you were becoming the hammer, because it sounds like that's what you had to become, what was your mentality during that? Because becoming the hammer, not everybody can become a hammer. It is tough. It takes you got to kind of put aside the nice guy. And I think it's safe to say that we are both nice guys. I would much rather have people excited that I walk into a room versus fearful. And sometimes you have to be the guy that just says, "We're not going to do it that way. You're a problem. You're a problem. You're a problem, and you're gone. And you're gone." Talk to me about how you became the hammer.
it was like, I mean, it was survival of basically just like, again, this is the roadmap to be successful. And so, like, you think about the logistics of things, you put it on paper, you mull it over in your mind, and this is the decision that has to be made. And so I think kind of what I had to do was exactly that, run through that process and then get to the point. And then it was like I had to shut off the emotional side of things and just, we have to make decisions. And this again, it's a stereotypical statement of like, this isn't personal. And really it's not. I have no personal beef or personal vendetta. This is
Yeah.
strictly because this is what we have to do to survive as a building.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't you feel like a psychopath when you do that? All of a
Without
sudden
a
you're just like,
doubt.
no emotion, you're fired. And then they walk out and you're just like, I am a terrible person. I feel nothing inside.
Which that's not specific to skilled nursing, right? You're going to see
Yeah.
that in any industry to make sure that you can keep the lights on. But yes,
Yeah.
there were moments that it was almost like an outer body to that first week. I just like sat down and I was like, what just happened?
Is going on. I'm
What
not that
was
person.
that even
Like,
me? Was that even
I'm
me? Who was that?
yeah, I'm gonna go home and play with my daughter. Like, I'm a nice guy, darn it. Like, what the heck is going on? It's funny because like it's being able to like place just your priorities on different things, right? Like being able to see that full picture of if I don't make this change, the building doesn't survive. And granted, it's a big company. The building will do fine, right? I might not survive, but like the building will probably survive. But
Yeah.
being able to like place the priority on, hey, I'm going to do whatever it takes to make this happen. I think that is a skill, right? And I think it's a learned skill because I do notice, and I'm going to sound like a psychopath when I say this, but I do notice that now when I have to either do like written warnings or terminations, it's not as hard as the first couple. It does get a little easier, but I don't think that that's like a calloused thing. Like I don't think I'm getting more callous to it. I think I just have seen that when I don't make those hard decisions, it impacts everybody else negatively, right? If I don't, part ways with this CNA, all the other CNAs have to pay for it because they have to make up the slack or they have to rewrite documentation or the director of nursing has to pick up the slack, right? And so it's really almost like a sympathy, right? Where as you keep people accountable, everybody else just appreciates that. And so sometimes we have to be the bad guy, which stinks.
Maybe not even calloused, but then you learn how to navigate those conversations so they go better each time.
Yeah.
I think I graduated school in 2020 and had been a manager, some sort of elevated role for 5 years before I even came over to long-term care. And so, but even that whole time, I think I probably only ever fired 2 people.
Yeah.
And I have like times that by 2 or 3 at this point. Like
Yeah.
you just,
Yeah.
and maybe it's just because you have so many more staff members than you had before, but you learn how to navigate those conversations, and it's not like they're not necessary. They have to be done. So
Yeah. Yeah, I hear you. What has been the biggest surprise since taking over your own building? And this can be going from like an AIT, you have a perception of how running a building is going to be. What was the biggest surprise for you?
I was deceived, but it's my own fault, right? The buildings are just very different. So coming into a building that was already being ran in a manner that was aligned with expectations was far easier to do than coming in and flipping one. And
Yeah.
I thought by 6 months, everything was going to be smooth sailing. And I'm 6 months in and I've come a long way, but we are far from smooth sailing. Like, I think I took my first day off since January of this year. So
Congratulations on the first day off.
thank you.
Heck, what did you do with your first day off?
We went to Idaho. We spent some time in Idaho with family.
That's where you're from, right?
Kind of. Yeah, I lived in Idaho till I was 8 and then moved to Utah. So I
Okay.
claim Utah as home, but I was born in Idaho and lived there for a while.
There we go. Love it. Well, congrats on the first day off. Hopefully it's the first of many. You got any other PTO planned in 2028 or what?
See it all. That I guess is another thing that I wasn't ready when I became an administrator is your days off revolve around the circumstances of your building.
Yeah.
You could think things are smooth sailing and then your staffing coordinator just walks out on you and you will not be taking those days off. So
Yeah.
all things go well and how I think they're going to go, then hopefully we'll be able to take a trip here in October.
There we go. There we go. Were you aware when you started this job just about how much it would be a lifestyle versus a job?
No, we talked about it in theory,
Yeah.
as an idea. My wife and we talked about it. But to actually live it is something very, very different.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny because all of a sudden you just get really used to responding to a text on a Sunday or Saturday, taking a phone call at, after hours, 8 p.m. It just becomes like very second nature. And if you can like learn how to like relax a little bit, like when you get those phone calls or like when you get those texts and just like do it very nonchalantly, then you can really unplug for a weekend. But for those first couple months, I just felt like I always had to be on. Like it was just terrible because I was just always waking up to phone calls at night. It felt like I could never unplug. It was just the worst. And so that I think that was my big like welcome to nursing home moment is I finally had to just like put on do not disturb, like strong do not disturb between it was like it wasn't even that long. It was like 11 p.m. to 6 a.m. It was like 7 hours of time that you should normally just be sleeping. But I had to like plug it in just because I was so exhausted and I was so like getting PTSD from all the texts, all the phone calls, reporting allegations of abuse. It was just the worst. So how was that? How
Mhm.
was that for you? Are you sleeping at all these days, or are you still up at night?
So that's again just the identity of one building versus another.
Yeah.
So that never changed after you after you left. That didn't change at all. As a matter of fact, I don't know. It could have gotten worse, but
Yeah.
I think I kind of got used to it a little bit. My wife got used to it. And this one's different. I really don't get that many calls on the weekend. I'll get texts after hours. There's always something that me and my director of nursing are talking about, one thing or another. But I think the part that's worse now is when I do get that phone call after hours, it's like something really, really bad is going on.
Dang. Yeah. Yeah. What have you set the level at in terms of what requires a phone call from the director of nursing? Have you like walked through expectations on that?
No, and that's like a personality thing
Yeah.
of I'm almost if it's a big enough deal that she needs to text me about it, I would be stressing about it anyway. So let's just get it
Yeah.
out of the way now. Let's get it figured out and then I can unplug. So
Yeah.
I like to address it as soon as it becomes an issue and get it taken care of. But she's pretty good about not throwing things at me.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's awesome. Dude, what gets you fired up in the morning? Why are you still doing this?
I got this question not that long ago. I can't remember from who. I'm just a competitive person,
Yeah.
sports my whole life. And so I want to see this building just become an absolute powerhouse. I want
Yeah.
it to be the place that everybody wants to work at. I want it to be the place that everybody wants to live. I want us to be on the map for just providing awesome care and being an awesome place to work. And so that is kind of what keeps me going is as hard as it is that's what I want it to be. And I don't feel like I'm going to be able to rest until it gets there.
Yeah. Yeah. There is so much satisfaction that comes from turning a building from kind of a scourge on the community to a resource for the community. And to be honest, I still feel that for that building out there that we both were a part of. I still love hearing about it. I texted you all the time about how things were going. I text the new guy sometimes about how things are going because I love it. I love it. I feel like there's like not only trauma bonding, but just when you spend so much time trying to build something and it actually gets built and works, you feel a sense of pride. And I think that's one of the reasons I still do it as well, is I want it to be a resource for the community. I want it to be a great place to work and a good livelihood for the people who work here. And that's 100%. 100%. I'm right there with you. What's the best thing that a marketer has ever brought you at a building?
They don't come to me, dude. They don't come to me because they know,
They
like,
know you aren't having any of it.
they know, so they don't come to me. And if they do, I just, hey, why don't you go talk to so and so on the management team and run it by them? But because my admissions team, one of them doubles as the marketer and clinical liaison, so people spend a lot of time with her. But man, keep the Krispy Kreme donuts coming.
Oh gosh,
Keep them
man.
coming.
It's impossible to go low carb in this profession because you are just bombarded the whole time with carb after carb after carb. Somebody walks in with Krispy Kremes, there's no prayer that I'm saying no to those. Somebody walks in with like quality pastries. Like if I'm feeling really strong, then I'll say no, but like most of the time I'm housing that as well. And then if somebody walks in with like kind of like your lower quality breakfast burritos and stuff, I'll say no, but the Krispy Kreme donuts, those things are just too good. So I think when I was running that building in Colorado, I actually lost 15 pounds. And then when I took over this building, I gained like 25. So I'm now
Like,
on the
yeah.
downhill again, but it has been just a weight loss journey for me as an admin. So
Yeah, ride the roller
that's
coaster,
really what we
man.
should have gotten into. Thanks for listening to this episode of The Nursing Home Operator. If you enjoyed the show, we'd really appreciate it if you'd subscribe, leave a review, drop a comment, or share it with someone in the industry. We're a new podcast, and every bit of support helps us grow. If you'd like to be a guest on the show, suggest a topic, ask a question, or share some feedback, there's a link to our Google form in the podcast description. We'd love to hear from you. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you on the next episode of The Nursing Home Operator.